One morning, it was a thriving city in the heart of the desert. By nightfall it was gone, swallowed whole by an ocean of sand. This isn't a legend. This is the true story of a place erased in a single day, and what scientists have now uncovered beneath the dunes. Subscribe to Infinity, and let's dig into the day the desert decided to take it all back. It was the summer of 1908 in what is now the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, a West African land where the Sahara stretches like a golden ocean. Traders along the old caravan route had always stopped in the bustling desert outpost of Shingeti, a center of Islamic scholarship, a marketplace for salt and gold, and a gathering place for nomads. But just a few hundred kilometers north, another settlement thrived, a lesser-known, prosperous hub called Tdine. Tdine was not built like other desert villages. Its structures were tall, square, and made of reddish mud brick reinforced with date palm beams. From afar, it seemed almost like a mirage, a fortress of clay in the sea of sand. Merchants from Morocco, Mali, and Algeria all passed through its gates. By all accounts, the city was in its prime. On a blistering morning, camel caravans left Tdine as usual. The air shimmered with heat. Traders, women, and children went about their day. But by midday, an eerie wind rose, a wall of dust in the distance, low at first, then building until it swallowed the horizon. Old men claimed it was the Shergoué, a deadly wind known to strip skin from bone. Witnesses later described the sandstorm as unlike any they had seen before. It didn't come in bursts, it moved like a living creature, crawling and coiling over the dunes, devouring whatever lay in its path. Visibility dropped to nothing. You couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. Inside the city, doors and shutters slammed shut. People huddled indoors, covering their mouths and noses with cloth. The sound was deafening, a howl that rattled walls and filled every crevice with sand. Hours passed. Then the unthinkable began. Buildings started collapsing under the weight of the drifting dunes. By late afternoon, entire streets were buried chest deep. The city's well, the lifeline of its people, filled with choking sand. Roofs caved in. Homes vanished before their owners' eyes. Families tried to flee but found every path blocked by mountains of shifting dunes. When the winds finally died down at nightfall, the caravan that had left in the morning returned, only to find nothing. Where Tdine had stood that morning, there was now a vast dune field, smooth and featureless, with only the tops of a few minarets and date palms poking through. Rescue efforts were impossible. The sand was deep, unstable, and lethal to cross. Survivors who escaped before the storm made it to Shingeti with wild, half-coherent tales of a city disappearing in a single day. Most were never believed. Tdine was gone. No maps marked it afterward. For decades, only whispers and camel driver songs kept its memory alive, until aerial archaeology in the late 20th century began to suspect it was more than a legend. Tdine wasn't the only city swallowed by sand in recorded history. Across North Africa and the Middle East, dozens of once thriving communities have been erased, some in days, others in centuries. But the phenomenon is poorly understood, often blamed on slow desertification when in fact sudden burial events have been witnessed firsthand. One example lies in Ubar, Oman, the so-called Atlantis of the sands. Traders described a fortified city vanishing in a storm, its towers sinking beneath dunes. In 1992, satellite radar confirmed buried walls under the Rub al-Khali Desert, supporting centuries-old Bedouin accounts. In Libya, an ancient Garamantian settlement in the Fezzan region vanished almost overnight in the 6th century CE. Archaeological digs show that intense sand-laden winds, combined with water shortages, forced the population to flee as dunes piled higher than rooftops. Mauritania itself is littered with ghost towns, medieval villages now completely invisible under the Sahara's golden waves. Oral history speaks of several being swallowed during a single afternoon storm, often after omens like sudden animal migrations or red dust in the sky. What makes Tdine unique is the wealth of detail from living witnesses, traders, nomads, and travelers whose accounts were written down by French colonial officers at the time. Most dismissed the stories as exaggerations, claiming no city could vanish so fast. Yet decades later, aerial surveys revealed geometric shapes beneath the dunes exactly where the stories said it was. Aerial archaeology, the study of landscapes from above, has revolutionized the search for these buried cities. Using shadow patterns at sunrise and sunset, researchers can detect buried walls, streets, and even gardens hidden beneath meters of sand. In the late 1970s, Researchers flying over northern Mauritania photographed faint rectangular outlines and straight lines running for hundreds of meters, a dead giveaway of human construction. The coordinates matched the oral accounts of Tstain's location almost perfectly. Ground expeditions found shards of glazed pottery, beads from trans-Saharan trade, and the collapsed remains of a mosque buried under nearly 8 meters of sand. All of it dated between the 14th and 19th centuries. The conclusion? Stein was real, and it was swallowed not by centuries of desert creep, but by one catastrophic day-long storm. But this raises the bigger question: why here, why then, and could it happen again? To understand how a city can vanish in a single day, we need to understand the mechanics of sandstorms, and the unique vulnerability of desert settlements. Saharan sandstorms, or haboobs, can form when powerful downdrafts from collapsing thunderstorms hit the desert floor, sending walls of dust and sand surging forward at speeds up to 100 kilometers per hour. While most last hours, certain wind patterns can sustain them for an entire day. The Sahara also has what geologists call mobile dunes, massive sand formations that can move several meters a year under steady wind. If the wind's direction and force align just right, these dunes can surge forward at terrifying speed. Tstain's location, archaeologists believe, was already precarious. It sat in a shallow basin surrounded by high dunes on 3 sides. When the Chergouet winds arrived, the basin acted like a funnel, pouring billions of grains of sand directly into the city. Once the first buildings collapsed, they trapped more sand. Courtyards and alleyways became choke points where dunes could stack higher and faster. By mid-afternoon, entire districts were entombed. Unlike stone-built cities, mud brick structures offer little resistance to sand. The wind wears them down grain by grain, and as they crumble, they provide more loose material to bury what remains. Survivors reported that even breathing became nearly impossible. Fine dust clogged nostrils and throats. Livestock died standing, buried up to their necks. Palm groves disappeared in minutes. Scientists studying satellite imagery of the Sahara have found similar disaster-prone zones, choke points where wind patterns and dune formations could theoretically bury a modern settlement just as fast. It's a reminder that nature doesn't always destroy slowly. Sometimes, it strikes in hours, erasing centuries of human achievement. And in a world where desertification is accelerating due to climate change, the story of Stein may be a warning, not just a legend. Today, Stein exists only as a faint scar under the dunes, marked by aerial photographs and the memory of nomadic tribes. No modern excavation has fully uncovered it. The sheer volume of sand makes that nearly impossible without massive funding. But the story still matters. It is part of a broader pattern of human settlements underestimated by history, because they didn't leave behind towering stone monuments like Egypt or Petra. For the people of Mauritania, it's a cultural touchstone, a cautionary tale told to travelers: respect the desert, for it takes what it wants. Some archaeologists hope new drone-based ground-penetrating radar will one day map the city in detail without disturbing the dunes, preserving both the site and its legends. Others argue that Tstain's true value is in the lesson it teaches about resilience. Cities rise and fall, but communities adapt, moving, rebuilding, carrying their knowledge forward. It's easy to romanticize lost cities, but for those who fled Stein, it was tragedy, not beauty. They left behind homes, trade goods, and the bones of ancestors buried beneath the same sand that now entombs their history. Still, in the quiet moments of the desert night, when the wind dies and the stars shine like glass, some say you can hear the faint creak of wooden beams and the echo of a call to prayer, a city breathing in the memory of the dunes. Whether or not the ghosts of Stein linger, the science and history behind its disappearance remain as real as the grains of sand that swallowed it. If the desert took a city in one day once, it could do so again, and in an age of shifting climates, perhaps sooner than we think. If you enjoyed this journey into a mystery buried beneath the sands, make sure to subscribe to Infinity, where we bring you more stories of forgotten worlds, ancient enigmas, and nature's most shocking moments. See you later.